Beards. In the Tudor era, they weren't just facial hair. They were statements of masculinity, loyalty, and even political allegiance. From Henry VIII's beard rivalry with Francis I to Elizabeth I's courtiers dyeing their beards red in her honour, Tudor men took their facial hair very seriously. They could spark diplomatic tensions, signify religious beliefs, and even cost you money. So let's dive into the wild, whiskered world of Tudor beards. Will Fisher, in his article The Renaissance Beard, Masculinity in Early Modern England, states that out of 60 portraits of men in an exhibition at the Tate Gallery of Portraiture from 1530 to 1630, 55 show the sitter with some sort of facial hair, usually a full moustache and beard. Beards were popular. Why? Because a beard was seen as the ultimate sign of masculinity, virility, and power. Amy Irvin, in an interview for History Hit, explains that the Tudors believed facial hair was the result of male sexual heat. Yes, really. They thought a hot, virile body pushed hair out through the skin, meaning that if you could grow a beard, you could produce heirs. Meanwhile, being clean-shaven was considered effeminate, the mark of a boy or cleric. No wonder beardless men were often mocked as beardless boys, even if they were in their 30s. And pulling another man's beard? That was an insult of the highest order, worthy of fines or even a duel. In his younger years, Henry VIII was clean-shaven, but then along came King Francis I of France, sporting a magnificent beard. Henry, never one to be outdone, immediately grew one to match. And his golden red beard? Magnificent, as the Venetian ambassador once described him. But Henry's beard was more than just vanity. It nearly caused a diplomatic crisis. In 1519, Henry and Francis planned their famous meeting at the Field of Cloth of Gold. As a sign of friendship, they vowed not to shave until they met. Henry took this very seriously, but Catherine of Aragon hated his beard. She begged him to shave it off, and eventually he gave in, only for Francis I's mother, Louise of Savoy, to take it as a massive insult. Who knew beards could be such serious business? It was down to the gifted diplomat Thomas Boleyn to do his best to smooth things over. And thankfully, he worked some magic, and Louise of Savoy ended up saying, "Love is not in the beards, but in the hearts." Phew. Beards in Tudor England weren't just one size fits all. They came in various shapes and sizes, and each style sent a clear message about a man's status and his character. According to Will Fisher, there were at least 15 styles from the period, which included the pique de bon, a small pointy beard popular with Elizabeth I's courtiers. Think Sir Walter Raleigh or Sir Francis Drake. The spade beard, a square-cut bold beard, often worn by soldiers and powerful men to emphasise masculinity. The swallowtail beard, more common among clergymen, giving a more pious appearance. An example is this portrait of an unknown man by John Betts the Elder. The sugarloaf beard, as sported by the poet Thomas Wyatt the Elder. The stiletto beard, a thin, sharp beard later adopted by Charles I and his Cavalier followers. And also the bodkin, the needle, the fantail, the pisa, and the marquisot. Fisher quotes from William Harrison's Descriptions of England, a Tudor work, saying, "Some are shaven from the chin like those Turks, not a few cut short like the beard of Marquis Otto, some made round like a rubbing brush, others with a pique d'avant, oh, fine fashion, or now and then suffered to grow long, the barbers being grown so cunning in this behalf as the tailors. And therefore, if a man have a lean and straight face, a Marquis Otto's cut will make it broad and large. If it be platter-like, a long slender beard will make it seem much narrower. If he be weasel-becked, then much hair left on the cheeks will make the owner look big, like a bodled, ruffled hen, and so grim a goose." And it wasn't just the shape of the beard that could be changed. Elizabeth I was known for her fiery red hair, a signature look that became a fashion statement across her court, and her courtiers went to extreme lengths to match her, including the men dyeing their beards red. But how did they do that? Well, 16th century hair dye recipes weren't exactly safe. One such recipe from Hugh Platt's book of the time advised men to use lead calcined with sulphur, quicklime and water. After rubbing it into the beard, it darkened over time, but at a serious cost. The mixture was toxic, causing burns, baldness and even poisoning. Some historians believe these harsh dyes contributed to hair loss, which led to Elizabeth I's famous wigs and the later trend of powdered wigs in the 17th century. So if you're thinking of dyeing your beard Tudor style, please don't try this at home. By the way, it is often claimed online that Henry VIII introduced a beard tax in 1535, where men had to pay a fee to keep their facial hair, something that they say was repeated by his daughter Elizabeth in her reign. But this claim just isn't backed up by the records of their reigns. I found no mention of these taxes in the primary sources. However, David Crowther of the History of England podcast notes that in 1447, Henry VI forbade the wearing of moustaches and required that the upper lip be shaved every 2 weeks. And that as late as 1542, members of the English bar were not allowed admission with a beard. Lawyers with a beard would have to pay double for their daily meals. Beards weren't just about masculinity and style. They were also a religious statement. During the Reformation, Catholics tended to be clean-shaven, while Protestant reformers deliberately grew long, heavy beards to show their break from tradition. So if you saw a Tudor man with a long, untrimmed beard, chances were he was a hardcore Protestant. Even Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, who was clean-shaven in Henry VIII's time, grew an enormous beard under Edward VI as a sign of his Protestant identity. Beards in Tudor England were so much more than facial hair. They symbolised power, masculinity, religion and loyalty, and, as I've said, sometimes even caused international incidents. So next time you see a Tudor portrait, take a closer look at the beard. It might just be telling a bigger story than you think. What do you think of Tudor beard culture? Would you have dyed your beard red for Elizabeth I? And what's your favourite style? Do let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and check out my other Tudor history deep dives.